Is the Google Pixel 6 Pro worth buying in 2022? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. Hi everyone, this is Kevin here, and this is the Google Pixel 6 Pro. Now I am part of Team Pixel, and this phone is a gift from Google, but all opinions expressed in this video are completely my own. Now the Pixel 6 Pro was launched in October of 2021, so at this point, it's not really that old of a phone, but now that we're in 2022, I did want to create this video to give it a refreshed look. Now, if you end up getting a Pixel 6 Pro, this is the box that the phone does come in, and the color of mine is known as Stormy Gray, which I feel like does look pretty good. I'm definitely curious though which color you prefer for the Pixel 6 Pro. Definitely let me know in the comment section below. But we don't get a whole lot included here in the box. We just get a quick start guide, a double-sided USB-C cable for charging and data transfer, and then we also have a USB-C to USB-A adapter. Now the Pixel 6 Pro is the top of the line device from Google, and this device features an MSRP of $899, which I feel like definitely is pretty competitive, but at the same time, they do tend to offer various deals as time goes on, so I will be linking to this phone in the video description, so definitely take a look at that to see the most up-to-date pricing for it. Now with the Pixel 6 Pro, we're getting a very large 6.71-inch display, and it features Corning Gorilla Glass Victus technology for the actual glass on here, which also makes it very durable. So definitely an excellent looking display here. It does feature LTPO AMOLED technology. It is also a 120Hz display, and the display itself is 1440p. Now we're getting a PPI of 512, so extremely crisp and clear with the device. We're getting a 19.5:9 aspect ratio, so a pretty narrow but tall form factor, and we're getting an 88.8% screen-to-body ratio. So I'm definitely a fan of having these slim bezels all throughout, and then we do have the hole punch for the front-facing camera, and that front camera is 11.1 megapixels. Now the Pixel 6 Pro does feature a curved glass display. Now in general, I'm not a huge fan of it, but that being said, it is kind of a light curve, not nearly as curved as some of the Samsung devices that we've gotten in the past, where it's very extreme. So if you are someone that's not crazy about having a curved glass display, I certainly don't think it's a deal breaker here with the Pixel 6 Pro, and if you do like having a curved glass display, then you certainly will like this device. Now with the Pixel 6 Pro, the base model does feature 128 gigabytes of internal storage, but the device does not feature microSD card expansion. So you are stuck with the amount of storage that does come here internally with the phone. Now this device does feature wireless charging, and what's especially nice about it is that wireless charging does max out at 23 watts. So if you have the proper Qi wireless charger to pair up here with the phone, then you will be able to recharge it pretty rapidly, even through charging it wirelessly. Now one of the biggest downsides that I have experienced so far with the Pixel 6 Pro definitely has to be the fingerprint sensor. Now this device uses an optical fingerprint sensor instead of an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which is what Samsung uses with their higher-end flagship phones. So I do wish that we had that instead. Now the optical fingerprint sensor that we do have here with the Pixel 6 Pro isn't necessarily terrible, but at the same time, you can notice in certain situations that it is a bit slower compared to ultrasonic fingerprint sensors. So after using that type of fingerprint sensor with another device and then using an optical one like this one, it certainly doesn't feel necessarily that top of the line. Another thing too is that there is no face unlock with the Pixel 6 Pro. So I certainly wish that they did somehow incorporate that, especially since other Pixel flagships in the past did have face unlock. I understand it did use a different technology than what they're capable of doing here with just the front-facing camera, but at the same time, it would have been at least nice to have that as an option, especially if you want to use that in conjunction with having the optical fingerprint sensor on the device. So definitely something to keep in mind there, but again, probably not a deal breaker either. Now with the Pixel 6 Pro, we do have a triple camera setup on the back of the device, featuring a 50 megapixel main camera, a 48 megapixel 4x optical zoom telephoto camera, and a 12 megapixel 114 degree ultra wide angle camera. So you're definitely getting some of the best cameras out there with this device. For photos, it's definitely one of the best out there. For video, Samsung and Apple do a better job from my experience, but the phone still does take really good looking video. Another thing to keep in mind is that for video with this device, it doesn't support 8K video recording, whereas 8K video recording is supported with Samsung's highest end flagships. Now here's how things look on the camera app. This is with the main camera right here. Then from here we can switch over to the ultra wide angle camera, which again at 114 degrees isn't that dramatic, but I am glad that we do at least have it here. We can then switch over to the 4x telephoto optical zoom to be able to zoom in very nicely. We can also go over to night sight to take nighttime photos, which is another strong point of this device. There's another section here too called motion. And then here we have action pan and long exposure mode. So definitely some cool modes to play around with and try out. Of course, there's video as well. And then we do have some additional modes here as well, such as lens, photosphere, and panorama. So if you're someone who's especially into mobile photography, then it really can't get much better than the Google Pixel 6 Pro, because that's essentially one of the main strong points of this device. Now, getting into RAM and processor, with this device we're getting 12 gigabytes of RAM paired up with the Google Tensor processor. So the Google Tensor is their in-house processor, so it's essentially supposed to compete with the best that Qualcomm has to offer. And I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test with the device, and I'll show you the scores from that test right now. But I got a single core score of 859 and a multi-core score of 2045. So certainly pretty good. I definitely recommend comparing these scores to your current phone to get a better idea of how it compares. Now, as far as battery capacity goes, we're getting a 5003 milliamp hour internal battery, and the device does support 30-watt fast charging. So it is nice that we have such a large battery with the phone, but at the same time, it can recharge pretty quickly. Now, from my experience of using this phone, I'm definitely glad that we do have a big battery here, because it's not necessarily the most battery efficient phone out there, but at the same time, the battery is plenty big that it doesn't need to be any bigger than it is. But my point is that even though it does have such a large battery, it's not like it's going to hold you over for 3 or 4 days, for example. It'll definitely get you through a full day, if not a day and a half, but definitely plan on charging this device on a regular basis, just like you would with pretty much any other phone out there. Now, in addition to the cameras, the software is another strong point of this device and one of its main selling features, because since Google created the phone, you also get the software directly from Google. Now, they have added in their own various pixel customizations to Android 12 in order to give us some other bonus features, which definitely come in handy here. I already showed you some of them within the camera app itself. But in addition to having good software and extra added features, the other benefit of getting a Pixel device is that you get software updates on a consistent basis. So December was a little bit rough because the December update had a few little issues, so they did delay that for a while, which, I mean, I'd rather them delay it than give us a software update that's not good. But the good news is that since then, we have continued to get consistent updates. I just got the February update yesterday, so that was really awesome to get the phone updated, and that's all perfect. We also got the January update as well. So in general, I like that they're keeping this phone updated. Of course, that's what you'd expect with the Pixel device, but they are certainly making this phone better and better as time goes on. Now, I'm certainly hoping that eventually we will get some sort of software update that'll give us face unlock, but they haven't mentioned that possibility at all, so I certainly won't believe it until I see it. But in general, I'm really a big fan of the hardware of this device, certainly very premium, covered in glass and metal all throughout. On the right side, we have volume down and volume up. We also have the power button. Then on the left side of the phone, we have nothing except for the slot for the SIM card. Then up top here, we just have the noise canceling microphone. And then on the bottom of the device, we have the speaker, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and the microphone. So in general, I think the Google Pixel 6 Pro is a very exciting device from the Pixel series, and I'm really glad that they ended up putting so much effort into making such a unique and interesting smartphone. If this device had a ultrasonic fingerprint sensor and also had face unlock, it would essentially be a near perfect phone. Now, as I mentioned a second ago, initially there were a decent amount of bugs with this device, but over time, the team has been releasing updates to fix those various issues. So I'm certainly confident in that, and I'm sure, again, as time goes on, this phone will continue to get better and better. Unfortunately, no software update can necessarily switch this phone from a optical fingerprint sensor to an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, but at the same time, hopefully they will at least improve the fingerprint sensor that we do have here with small software updates. But most importantly, I'm really curious to know what you think about the Google Pixel 6 Pro. Do you think this phone is a good option to get, especially now that we're in early 2022? Or do you feel like waiting for something else? Or are there other higher end devices on the market right now that you'd prefer over this one? Certainly curious to know what you think, but in general, I think it's a solid device from Google. Certainly curious to see what else they come out with this year, and I'm sure eventually we will be getting the Pixel 7 series. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Take a look at the links in the video description to learn more about the Google Pixel 6 Pro. But this is Kevin here, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day.